Today is the 24th day of June, and you are welcome to another edition of Newsroom. On behalf of the entire staff of Canal de English here at Aqua, may I extend our greetings to our teaming viewership in Victoria, otherwise known as Limbe, Ekondo Titi, Kumba Kumbo, and beyond. Those who have accepted to be part of this program today, I will begin from my right. The one and only Amabo Marcel. Mr. Amabo Marcel, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on this platform to talk to these wonderful people of Cameroon. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. And on my left, we have Ashu Akepe, who is a political activist or an activist. Is that, if I'm wrong? Am I wrong to present you that way?
Good day, Smith. Good day, Cameroonians and all Africans. You are not wrong, but I am a civil society activist.
Okay.
I do not eat in the plate of political issues.
Okay.
It is always a pleasure to be online. I'm happy to be here for my first time. I believe by the end of the 90 minutes talk, we must have tried our own way in contributing positively for the nations of Africa.
Okay, thank you very much, Ashu Akepe. May I remind you that we are still waiting here on set. Elvis Tayong, who comes from all the way from Bamenda to take part in this program. Well, before we go into the core of this program, we'll start with our icebreaker. And if you may have been, or if you are a lover of international news, you may have known that since the 5th of June this year, members of the Gulf Cooperation Council and their allies, and in chief Saudi Arabia, has decided to suspend or isolate diplomatically Qatar, why the tiny Gulf country is accused of sponsoring terrorism. But those who know one or two things about the domain of terrorism might quip to hear this accusation from Saudi Arabia. It is a classic example of a kettle calling a pot black. Why do I say so? 5,000 Saudis took part in the Mujahideen in 1979 in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union invasion. And also you have, after the 11th September attack, 19 terrorists took part, 15 came from Saudi Arabia. And in the jails of Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, you have 611 detainees, 115 comes from Saudi Arabia. And then you also have currently the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or Syria and Iraq, popularly known as ISIS or Daesh. You have 2,500 Saudis fighting there. So I don't know who is a terrorist and who is not, or who sponsors terrorism or who doesn't sponsor terrorism. But I would like to begin this icebreaker with you. What is your take when you hear a country like Saudi Arabia, and the icing on the cake is that Saudi Arabia, they want to negotiate with Qatar, but one of the 13 demands is that Saudi Arabia should ban Al Jazeera.
Qatar should ban Al Jazeera.
Yes, Qatar should ban Al Jazeera.
Smith, there's one thing I know and I'm very convinced with. That success or prosperity attracts more enemies than friends. It is not surprising that Qatar is undergoing such a pressure simply because, as you say, it's a small country, but its rate of prosperity has surprised so many. Be an island and in the desert, understand? You listed so many. But if today a question is asked to those who are writing exams, who is the father of modern terrorism, they will give you a name and find out the nationality of that father of modern terrorism is from Saudi Arabia. So it is very difficult for Saudi and a so-called ally to pinpoint and isolate Qatar as being the main sponsor of terrorism. Truly, if they are saying it today, it means that they knew it before. Why did they not tackle it? Because they knew terrorism was a bad thing. When the World Trade Center was bombed, maybe because it wasn't in Saudi Arabia, since it took place in another country. But given the condition to suspend Al Jazeera, we understand that we are in an era where war is first of all fought on the media. if Qatar is known to is thanks to the strength of Al Jazeera. We know the numerous moves that other foreign countries have struggled to capture Al Jazeera to put in their satellites so that they could impose the editorial policy. But since those guys have failed to do that, it is now they are passing behind Saudi Arabia and the other feminine states, if I should put them like that, to break Qatar. It is the same problem that North Korea is facing, because they say we want to be ourselves. No people can develop if they don't believe in themselves. The Qataris believe in themselves, and that is the greatest thing. I am not painting them white.
Okay.
I am not painting them white, because all what we know is that terrorism is being sponsored by petrodollar.
Terrorism is being sponsored by petrodollar, and then when you saw the brief picture that I painted, it is kind of strange that if you have 2,500 Saudis who are members of Daesh in Iraq and Syria, then I don't understand who is a sponsor of terrorism. Now, let me ask you also this same question. Now, when you look at a major country such as Saudi Arabia, you also have their allies on the African continent, like Senegal, Comoros Island, I think Chad, who have decided to withdraw their diplomats in Qatar. What is your own take as an observer?
Well, I think it's a pity that money is controlling so much in the world today. A country like Saudi Arabia, we know Saudi Arabia for its wealth from petrol, as a major petrol dealer in the Middle East. The statistics you presented a while ago, I mean, they speak for themselves. That, of course, Saudi Arabia is a state that sponsors terrorism. Even if the government wants to claim that it's not really the government that is sponsoring those guys, but it is what happening under the very watch of the government. And just to add to that, the person who was behind the September 11 attack, Osama bin Laden, most of his assets, most of his wealth was in Saudi Arabia.
He's a prince of Saudi Arabia.
Good. So I mean, it speaks for himself. I think it's just a matter of a bigger fish trying to fight down and shut down a smaller fish that he sees that this smaller fish is growing and is gaining popularity and influence. I think that's just what is happening. You see, because when it comes to be it underground terrorism or single out terrorism, Saudi Arabia is behind many of them. It's a hidden secret. It's a hidden secret in the Middle East. So it's a pity that we see other countries falling in line. When we have allies just like Senegal, like you mentioned, Senegal, Chad, you know, responding to that call by Saudi Arabia, I just think it's because of the money that Saudi Arabia is pumping to this government. So they just like want to keep on eating from the hand that is feeding them.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Besides Senegal, you also have Egypt, and we can also understand, because the Egyptian government claims that it's because of Saudi Arabia, it is because of Al Jazeera that the Arab Spring was able to topple their respective regime. And I think the other case is that is like, as you said, a small fish like Qatar is boxing above or it weight.
And just to add, talking about Al Jazeera, most of the major international media, the CNN, the BBC, France 24, and all the like, what they give to the public is what their government wants the world to know. You know, CNN being America like, you know, an ideal country, BBC, the UK, the same thing. But now here come Al Jazeera, an international media that seem to just give you the picture of what is happening, and you make the interpretation that you want to make. And all of them are feeling challenged because all the fishy deals that some of these governments are running behind the scenes, Al Jazeera exposes them, whether they are Arab governments, government of Arab nations or government of democratic nations, whatever. Al Jazeera just gives you the picture. A simple example is the case of our present crisis in Cameroon. Al Jazeera was one of the major international media that started talking about it.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Before you wrap up this icebreaker, coming to Al Jazeera, right? There were plans to engulf Al Jazeera into an European That's a major European channel, let me not call the name, because I want to make the publicity, intended to buy Al Jazeera so they could impose a different policy.
All right.
Those who matter and control the media landscape reacted. Had it been that happen, so many things could have been passing behind the doors.
Exactly.
So since they failed to break that deal and Al Jazeera remains independent, it disturbs them.
It disturbs them. Okay.
As Marcel puts it, the France 24, CNN, they have been threatened by these guys.
All right. Okay. It's a good thing. May I remind you, Teleview, that it is our icebreaker, and that we are talking about the diplomatic isolation of Qatar by the Gulf nations, including Egypt and other countries, and on their alleged sponsorship of terrorism. But the other icebreaker would like to bring our colleague on set is about the dress code. It seems as if at the Cameroon National Assembly, it is not a good thing anymore for you to be bedecked in your traditional regalia. And one MP from the Northwest, from the SDF, was a victim. He was denied the rostrum simply because the Speaker of National Assembly of Cameroon, or the Speaker of Cameroon's lower House of Parliament, Kava Yege Jibril, claimed he was poorly dressed. But the paradox in the whole thing is that Kava Yege Jibril himself is regularly bedecked in their traditional regalia, which is that flowing robe known as the Gandura. I would like to begin with you, Elvis Tayong Ta. You are all the way from Bamenda. Did you get that news that an MP from the Northwest was denied an opportunity to speak simply because he was, to quote the Speaker of Parliament, he was poor, he was not dressed in a, can I say poorly dressed? Because he was dressed in his own traditional regalia.
Yeah, I think if we look at the way the things evolve, I think the country, something is wrong in the country. Because these are people who say things at random, and then it's like they go scot-free. I said something is wrong with the regime. This is an epileptic regime that needs some therapy that only God himself knows. Because when you find things occurring like this, these are issues that are supposed to have been brought to book on the spot. When I look at it, it looks like something is wrong somewhere. Because when you find a Speaker of the National Assembly gives this kind of statement, Anglophone crisis started ere long, and it was minimized. Now, it came to a time whereby it has exploded. While the country is still battling and deceiving itself that it is on a good footing solving it, some other government officials make this kind of error. To me, it's jeopardizing what the head of state is doing. If I am the head of state, I call you to book.
If you're the head of state, you call him to book. And now, Marcel, I'll come back to you. What was your reaction when you heard about that? That he himself, Kavaye Jibril, he has his Gandura, the white flowing robe.
No, seriously, there are some things that don't shock me about our leaders. When you have leaders who don't have a sense of purpose for a country and a sense of patriotism for that country, you can expect the worst from them. When you have leaders who don't know how to value and celebrate their own thing, you should expect anything from them. And it just comes to prove something about him. You know, Honorable Riba was talking and asking him that I was out.
We'll come on that.
No, I just want to say something.
Yes.
He was saying that I went out, you never did anything to cover me. Like Mr. Tayong said, the least that the Speaker of the House would have done was to be conscious of the present situation of the country. Even if, say, that MP was poorly dressed per se, which I don't think he was, but for the sake of the situation, the present tension in the country, he would have gone over it. But to show you that he doesn't care, he goes on and raises such a flimsy, I mean, it's unthinkable for something like that to be coming from the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Thank you. And you, Ashu?
Mr. Smith, I believe in the Third Republic, a lot of things need to be done so that we should know who somebody is to be somewhere. As Marcel Riley puts it, when declarations come from some persons in this country, to some of us it does not shock us, because I know the credibility of an information comes from the source.
Okay. So you were not
I'm
shocked?
not shocked.
Okay.
You might say that he does not know. He knows. He was the one who said, terrorists are within among us. From that same day, what has been done to investigate that? No, you have been shocked what he said. He simply confirms what I used to say. In this country, there are first class, second class, and third class citizens.
And third class
Those of us who speak in this language might attend because they are third class citizens. So you can't say that to an MP of the nation.
You can't say that. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe your technician, the editing machine, can project that image. This is how the world at large will see. Because that is a traditional regalia. Because I believe even in the reception, in the Unity Palace, they always specify you must dress in dark suit or traditional regalia.
Okay. Well, we don't have the images here because even we saw the President of the United States, Barack Obama, was dressed like that, and even during the Olympic Games in Brazil, that was the dress from the Cameroons, when you even had the minister Gregoire Ouna, is it Gregoire Ouna, yes, who was even dressed in it. But now we're going to leave it to another topic. It was really a shocker as far as I'm concerned when the cover of a daily called L'Emergence said the new director of Cameroon's Telecommunication Regulatory Board, abbreviated in French as ART, Agence de Régulation des Télécommunications, has banned English language at that company, within that company. And this is coming at the behest of what is called the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission, headed by former Prime Minister and now Senator Peter Mafani Musonga. I think our technicians will be able to give us the cover of that edition of L'Emergence, to say that we have not invented anything. Okay. And my question is this, I will start with you again. Now, if you have a director of a company, that logic would have required that it should be an English-speaking person or a person who speaks English to be at the head, because almost 99% of the telecommunication language is in English. He speaks only French, and he says that he doesn't want any English language to be spoken. What do you think the government should do at this point in time? And that is the paper on your screen. Le nouveau DG proscrit l'anglais. He doesn't want to hear English again at the ART, Agence de Régulation des Télécommunications, the Cameroon Telecommunication Regulatory Board. No English is there, it's banned.
Well, I think when we look at the developments, it's so sad that we get issues like that on. I mean, so sad. And it tells me that the entire system is sick. Because that's why I was also saying, because when I was speaking with Honorable Yo-Yo out there in Ngogutunja Division, he also made the same allusions that the National Commission on Bilingualism and Multiculturalism has no face because of the persons who constitute that particular commission. Now, if I look at it critically, I begin to ask myself, the other day they were at the Congress Hall in Yaoundé, installing the Secretary General of the National Commission of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. This is where we expect the commission to have spoken. They are silent. It means it is a dormant commission that has no place and value in this country. Therefore, let politicking be kept aside, because I've said, in this country, we are all behaving as if we are missionaries hired to rule this country. And that is why each time you are talking, people are there with pens, taking notes, and waiting for you to be persecuted, because they know that they lack what it takes, and very few persons can get to that. How can a director of that magnitude, newly installed, if it's a country following the strict rule of law, that kind of person, within 48 hours, is replaced instantly? Once that is done, as an eye-opener, I am surprised that the Musonga Commission has not made a statement. This is deplorable.
It is deplorable.
It is deplorable.
Good. And you, Ashu, what is your take on that?
Mr. Smith, I feel so sad about the commission. I don't know if I should talk about the commission or the statement.
The statement from the director of the Cameroon Telecommunication Regulatory Board
was that
banning
commission
English
created for Anglophones or for Cameroonians. The board chair an Anglophone.
Secretary General.
The central nervous system, that's the Secretary General, that's the central nervous system of that commission an Anglophone. What do people don't sense, and I sense a lot of danger.
What do you sense?
Yeah, I said failure, so that it should be said les anglophones échoués. Well, that commission was supposed to be a commission for Cameroonians. not for Anglophones.
Okay. Now,
Listen to, for a general manager to say such a thing. No, the first thing, the minister himself or committee was supposed to suspend him. His suspension could have come immediately.
Automatically.
It's not something that
Because of the start procedure.
okay, now Amabo will be coming out of this with you. Are you of the opinion, or do you share the opinion of people, we have our colleagues here on set, saying that, well, they would have just suspended him immediately after he made that utterances, and it became public that he has asked? It seems as if even during a directorate meeting, there's one Anglophone that wanted to present his report in English. He said again that no, pas d'anglais ici, no English here, it should be in French. If you, as an Anglophone, as a Cameroonian, do you think he has to resign, the director of RRT?
Well, talking about resignation, we don't have resignation in the culture of our government here in Cameroon. You can't even talk about resignation. I don't remember any person who, I don't remember two, three people in this country
in
who have
Cameroon,
resigned.
resignation is a sign of weakness.
So I think after having sacked him, he should be investigated and be prosecuted for wanting to inciting the people. Considering the present situation in the country, that there is a crisis with people of English expression, Cameroon, and then you go ahead to ban that same English language in a national telecommunication regulatory board of the country, which also exercise authority over the English region. So what are you doing? You are simply communicating a message to those people that you don't matter, and the present crisis we have in the country is for that. So when the government talk about inciting, this is an example of inciting the people.
Yeah.
Inciting. So I think that after having sacked him, he should be investigated and be prosecuted for inciting the people in the English part of our country.
Okay,
Just
rapidly,
a second.
yes, because
The general manager has not committed any crime against Anglophones. He has committed a crime against Cameroon.
he has committed.
Because English language is a wealth of the nation. So he has committed a crime against Cameroon.
He has committed a crime against Cameroon. English language is a wealth of the nation, which is true. But we'll be now, this is the end of our icebreaker for the morning program. But before we go into our debate proper, we would like to begin with the headlines prepared to us by our one and only Dominique Meme.
Rising death toll from Boko Haram attacks in the far north region of the country. The number of people killed recently remains frightening to Cameroonians, with many of them asking if it is the spillover effect of the protest of some soldiers in the area last month. Is the war against Boko Haram really moving to an end? Honorable Joseph Wiba reappeared at the National Assembly after several months of absence. The Member of Parliament from Kombo constituency had a heated argument with the Speaker of the National Assembly, reiterating his point that he will continue to fight for the Anglophone community. More than 300,000 refugees live in Cameroon, with officials of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees saying the number is on a steady rise. Most of the refugees are from Central African Republic and Nigeria. Observing World Refugee Day this week, the refugees decry problems they face in Cameroon. In sports football, Cameroon versus Germany this Sunday in a crucial last group stage match at the Confederation Cup in Russia. In case of any victory of the Lions, arithmetic calculation will be needed on how they will succeed to get to the second round of the competition. These stories and more will be discussed with Elie SMITH, accompanied by a guest. Have a nice weekend.
Well, we want to thank Dominique Meme for the headlines. As you may have heard, as Dominique said, Boko Haram is on the rise again, and this month alone, officially, 20 lives have been taken away by the Islamic group. Why is this new resurgence of Boko Haram? Is it because the rains are around, or is it that the morale of the troops are down, symbolized by the strike of some soldiers recently? Anyway, signs are that things are not moving as most often chanted by the official media, especially the spokesman of the government. And as a sign that things are falling apart or are not moving the way the government would have wanted, the Minister of Defense, Betty Asomo, or the Minister Delegate in charge of Defense, is already, as we speak, in the far north to try to, he's on a whirlwind tour there to try to boost the morale of the troops and try to find out what is going on. Well, I would like to begin with Ashu on this. What is wrong with the Cameroonian army and that Boko Haram is on the rise, in your opinion?
Permit me to do maybe a broad, holistic presentation of this issue, not just giving a one-way opinion. We are in a war-like situation in the far north of Cameroon, where our country, our national territory is being threatened by terrorists. The attacks are regular. The military, those who are specialists in military issues, say we are in an asymmetric warfare, which I believe is studied in school. We have guys who have studied in and beyond Cameroon, so they understand. The asymmetric warfare we're having today in this country is not a creation of now. For now, it means these things have been happening elsewhere. People know how it's supposed to be done. They know the basics. An asymmetric war is not won with sophisticated
or conventional war.
Yes, there are so many qualitative approaches that the state is supposed to use at this moment. But what do we notice? Our government and those who manage the state have remained faithful to themselves. That is to say, they treat symptoms and abandon the cause. If you look at the genesis of Boko Haram, which is not Cameroon, because Boko Haram has entered Cameroon just like a subcontracting issue. Boko Haram was born as a pressure group in the north of Nigeria to present the problem of an abandoned people. How it came into this country, our government should have known. That is where. But what do we see? We see military people giving bags of rice. That is not what we need from them. It's vigilance for the military. From what we presented, there's a bit of bad wind blowing within the military. If somebody who is at the war front is not happy, what do you think? Because they are there at the expense of their lives. Why should they be disgruntled? Why should they be disgruntled? It is because of this that we are having this. The past week, was it 2 days ago, there was another attack in Kolofata Amora. Why should innocent citizens be losing their life, whereas we have a well-trained military? It simply means somebody somewhere is not doing the coordination well. The problem is with coordination.
The problem is with coordination. And where do we stand as at now? You know, it was marketed as the bulwark against the advance or the resurgence of Boko Haram, that is a regional corporation, which is one of the ways to fight. It was marketed as a bulwark. Where do we stand now in it, if you are a kind of conversant with it?
Yeah, what I think is the different governments involved in this regional coalition, you know, to combat the Boko Haram. I think there is some kind of tiredness that is coming on some of the governments, because of course we know how instrumental the Chadian forces have been in the fight against Boko Haram, not only on the soil of Chad, even on Cameroon territory, in Nigerian territory. So I think if that cooperation would have improved upon, if they worked on it seriously, I don't think we would have been where we are. You know. Secondly, when you have a situation where our armed forces, our defense forces, like Ashu said, there is a kind of bad morale, low morale, it's difficult. Now, come to think of it, that some of the troops went on strike for not having been paid their salaries for some time, and then now the government take upon itself to prosecute these troops. And while the government is prosecuting them, we are hearing that that money was actually embezzled by one of the generals. So when you put this together, what kind of picture does it paint? recently, some months back, it was the troops that went for UN mission in Central Africa.
Yeah, that was last year.
That was last year, and they also went on strike before that. You see, it's because normally things like that, going on strike in the military corps is something that is unheard of. It's unheard of. But when we see that happening, it's because of the natural state, is the general state of the country. Because they have seen that different institutions of the country, the Cameroonians serving there, when they have problems that have aggravated, when they go on strike, that is when the government comes to attend. So it's like you must go on strike before the government heed to your cry. So that's why they had no option to go on strike. Unfortunately, the government, who does not know dialogue, only knows force, is prosecuting them.
If prosecuting them. Let me come back on you. Some claim that the emblematic leader of Boko Haram is Abubakar Shakau, a man who has 9 lives because he has been declared dead on several occasions, but we see him rise like a phoenix. Some claim that he no longer has the control, is that it's now being controlled by 2 individuals, Ahmed Barnawi and Halet No. That's the reason why the strategy has changed. If you are coming, do you think that it is because at the helms of Boko Haram, we have a person who has a different tactics now, 2 persons in fact, Ahmed Barnawi and Halet No. That's why Boko Haram is really resurging in Nigeria, in Cameroon, all over the place?
Well, I think that from the analysis and when you look at issues revolving around the Boko Haram, I think that first I press President Paul Biya for taking a bold step, because we are losing hundreds of millions of francs CFA to sustain that war. And it's not a conventional war, as we all know. It's not like you are seeing somebody to shoot. It's a war that is taking a different twist.
Yeah, that's why he said asymmetric.
Asymmetric. So what I'm saying here is that in the first place, that's why I keep on saying, even several times when I come here, that when advisors paid to do their job fail to do their job, they should leave the job. Because we have advisors in the military corps. Now, these are people who have gone through a military academy, they know the tactics. Now, Cameroonian army must understand that when it comes to jihadist movements, they have what they call resistance. First, because all those that they recruit, they first of all pass them through hardcore education. Military should understand that, what I'm saying here, because I've carried out that study. Now, when you understand the way jihadists operate, after having assimilated you mentally, it goes to a point whereby you can use even your last blood at any stage. If you fail, your great-grandchildren will pursue the cause. So what does it mean by this? It simply means that the Cameroonian army should understand that morals, just as we're saying here, should further be top on the agenda. Secondly, when it comes to picking up the war with Boko Haram, there should be another study carried out. Where is this Boko Haram coming from? You remember, media has carried out several speculations, because the way in which the Boko Haram is emanating, we seem not to understand whether it is just the normal Boko Haram we know, or is something else transpiring. So our guys from the intelligence units in the military are supposed to get 2 people, first group, acting at the forefront fighting, while the other ones are putting up diplomatic measures. At the point where we're talking, diplomacy should not be ruled out. If they get to find out the cause, because the way Boko Haram is sustaining this war, I am afraid that some hands are inside. The Cameroon military should understand what I'm saying.
What do you mean by hands? What do you mean?
When I say hands, it
means...
means...
to be clear, people who are watching...
Yeah, when I say
They're
some hands,
sponsors.
it means it is sponsor inclined. Because if you look at the sophisticated weapons, you look at the manner in which they break in, if you go detailing, you might be surprised, even within our own corps, there could be some persons who are indicating to them. Because the moment, if you look at it, their strike comes out, the moment military has a little bit of recess, that's when they come in. When Cameroon military is on high alert, you don't see them. Meaning that those working at the intelligentsia units of the military have not done their job well. They need to get to more work, double their effort, so that while they are working on the ground, we need to, because that's what Cameroonians have not understood. Who are really those behind Boko Haram? We know over 300 US forces were sent in. Till today, I have not seen the impact of the US troops. Which means that while the US troops is coming in, French forces are to come in, but we need to look in between the lines. Could it be me who is coming to mediate at the same time me who is working behind the scene on this issue? Those are issues that needs to be carried out by the intelligence unit of the military. If these issues are taken into consideration, I think that the Boko Haram issue needs to be taken under consideration. Now, if you look at like when the Anglophone crisis started, I had never seen the police forces with black covers like guys who are going for warfare. And when they were passing on the streets of Bamenda, I said, but wow, if we have this kind of dangerous police forces with the armored vehicles, we should deploy them to the far north. Because it's more dangerous there, because you know that those people that have weapons, that the people in the Anglophone, the Southwest region, who don't even have weapons. So if the state understands what I'm saying, they redeploy all these guys who are hanging around with covered faces, people who are going for. There is no war in North and Southwest. There's no war. Let them deploy all of them there, so that they help to quiet down the Boko Haram crisis that is that's giving a constant trouble. That's giving us constant trouble in the far north region.
Great. And now Elvis was talking about the international dimension of it at some sponsors, but we understand that Ahmed Barnawi, who should be somewhere around Lake Chad, and Noor Khaled are Cameroonians who have cut their teeth respectively in Afghanistan, especially Ahmed Barnawi. He is alleged to have worked with Mullah Mohammed Omar, who was the spiritual leader of the Taliban in Afghanistan. Are you trying to share the idea that perhaps the Cameroonian army or even regional forces seems to underestimate the international dimension or connection of Boko Haram?
Mr. Smith, if we want, let troops come from South Korea, from America, from Great Britain, from Russia, to come and fight this war. They will be attacking symptoms and not the cause.
And what are the causes?
When the issue of terrorism broke out to the exponential level that it's gone today, it was when the Twin Towers were touched. People thought killing bin Laden would quell terrorism. But somebody said, killing bin Laden or Saddam Hussein is creating more of them. Even if Shekau dies today, he has trained many other Shekaus. Let the governments know the cause of Boko Haram. Let them solve that cause. And that this stuff will take a natural death. Because what deploying forces is spending states' money that is not yielding any fruits. National defense is a continuous process. There should be no period of maximum security and a period of minimum security. Our state defense should be on maximum alert at any time, because between states there is no friendship, there is interest.
Okay, let me ask you this question, because in Cameroon there are some conspiracy theories going around, which I don't believe in it, but I would like to ask you this question. And I think when I was listening to Elvis, it came up, I kind of thought that, perhaps he will correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of was thinking that there are some Cameroonians who think Boko Haram is not an indigenous movement to Cameroon, where we'll know, he said, come from northeastern Nigeria, but that the foreign powers like the United States, France, have a hand in it. Do you share that idea?
Well, it's very possible, because it's not something new, and then on the international stage, you know, ISIS is just a replication of Al-Qaeda in another form. You know, the forces, the guys who are fighting the ISIS forces today, some of them were fighting under the name Al-Qaeda. You get it? It's true, Al-Qaeda is still there, like they claim, but it's not new. So it's no, in fact, it's no surprise that we could have that possibility. It's very, very possible. He raised a very interesting thing. I'm sure that was early last year when those 300 special forces, US special forces, were deployed on, in the far north.
Yes,
but
they are based in Garua.
Good. Now the point now is,
the war is in the
we
far
don't.
north.
And the war is in the far north. Why they are in Garwa?
Now we don't have any result, no information, no report of how it has contributed to quell down the problem.
They say, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
they are there to provide intelligence to the multinational task force made up of Cameroon, Nigeria, Chad, Niger.
And it comes to what we are saying. He raised up the issue of the intelligence, because you need to find out where their bases are. All that. We need to see the results.
That we need to see.
For instance, in
see.
Nigeria, the Chibok girls were released.
Yeah.
Why? What came? Because the intelligence discovered that they were actually captured in this particular forest. And that's how the media was reporting as progress was made. When the Nigerian forces were to attack that forest, we knew. So that shows you that there is some progress. But when you just say that you are providing intelligence, and intelligence is supposed to provide information for those at the forefront to attack, and when those at the forefront they attack with precision, and we see the results. Where are the results? The results are not there. So what kind of intelligence is this U.S. tax special forces? What are they giving today?
Let me stay with you, Amabo. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Don't you think that you talked about Nigeria? Maybe it is the problem of Cameroonian reporting, our journalists. The Nigerian press reports daily, weekly, hourly on the progress of Boko Haram in the northeast of Nigeria. In Cameroon, we have a Minister of Communications, Issa Chiruma, who says that we have won the war, we are victorious. We, the journalists, we don't do our job. That's why perhaps we are surprised that this thing is still going on. Isn't it because we are not reporting it accurately? Hence, we are surprised that today, officially, about 20 people have died.
Yeah, that could be true, but that's just one side of the coin. But now we are talking about the reality on the field.
We are looking at
whatever the Cameroon media is reporting, whether they are doing their job or not, let us know that the intelligence information provided by these U.S. Special Forces is quelling down Boko Haram, because over 5 months we'll have about 100 deaths, 12 different attacks. But let us see now that over 12 months we have 2 attacks and we have 3 deaths. But when we start having this kind of situations like this, that's the reality. It's telling us that something is wrong somewhere.
Within a month. Within a month. Now let me ask you a question, right? You know there is English saying that says that a lazy craftsman quarrels with his own tools, right? Yeah. Sometimes we now want to shift the blame on France, on the United States, who are helping us. When you don't pay your soldiers, is that not one of the causes why there can be kind of lull in the way they were fighting or attacking or defending the country, and that's why this is resurgent Boko Haram?
Well, if you look at the issue, for me, I have not really seen it very well at the level of payment. I see it more at the level of coordination. Now, we'll talk about payment because the faction of the forces who are involved in salaries issues are not those directly involved in the fighting with the Boko Haram. Now you realize that in the B Battalion Intervention de Rapide, that of the Army Corps is known as the Elitist Corps.
Yes.
And if you go within the ranks and files of the army, the other sections of the army are not very comfortable because a lot of attention has been given to them, which I don't refuse because of the risk they engage. That's why I say I praise them for the courage they have to confront these guys. But then, when we talk about coordination here, as we said earlier, the fact that you are more muscular than me doesn't mean that you can beat me, because you could have the muscles to beat me, but I have the techniques that you don't have. Remember, these guys all they have powerful military background. I mean, all these jihadists, they have, powerful military background. Most of them are experts in computer technology. They are experts in mounting bombs. They are experts in dismantling bombs. They are experts in detecting areas where they can strike.
Yeah, let me not interrupt you. You are right, because this guy Ahmed Barnawi is very good. Both of them, Khaled Noor, they are specialists. Barnawi was in Afghanistan. So we have somebody who has been in Afghanistan, and this other man has worked with one guy in the Sahel called Khaled Bel Mokhtar. So which means that they have quite a good experience.
So if we look at that situation now with our Boko Haram elites, there's one problem we have. I'm sorry to say that they have the equipment that it takes, but the experience at the war front is still lacking. Experience at the war front is still lacking because these guys you are calling, they have lived bumping. Bumping to them is like good morning. Now, these are our young elitist force that we've trained, which is good, but then the training you have and the practicals are two different things on the field. Well, that's why I'm saying that with President Paul Biya, who is good at diplomacy, what he should do now, which could help us, Chad, bringing in Chad is good because Chadians, they are good with those kind of warfares. Now, it's just a matter of employing the Israelites, the Israeli forces, which they are good at that. If you get a contingent of Israeli forces, contingent of Iranian forces rather, if you put them together under the diplomatic tendencies, I think that...
Do you think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, do you think Iran and Israel can be in the same house? It's like putting a cat and a dog.
Well, you have a point there. It's true. They cannot be together. We could take one of them who are good with the world front and then they engage. So at the end of it, if we look at the war here against Boko Haram, I think that I'm more based on the intelligence part of it. If they can work on the intelligence part of it, I think that knowing where it's coming from, the tactic they use, because these guys cannot be in Sambisa Forest. It's a geographical location, and it's difficult to fish them out. If they cannot get them out, it means they are not in Sambisa Forest. It means they might be operating out of Sambisa Forest and giving the impression that they are in Sambisa Forest.
Good. Maybe they might not be in Sambisa Forest, but for your information, Khaled Ahmed Barnawi is not in Sambisa, but he lives around Lake Chad. Good. That's it. And now we'll be going to our second topic of the day, which is the comeback. I don't know, should I call him a prodigal son, but it is called Joseph Wiriba, the one and only Joseph Wiriba, who is a professional rabble rouser, a man who has ruffled many feathers. He is back in parliament with a bang. But before we discuss on the second coming of Joseph Wiriba at the Cameroon lower house of parliament and his tussle with the speaker of the lower house, Kabayege Jibril, let's watch this video of him in parliament. While waiting for our technicians to be able to prepare the tape, we will want to, before then, let me ask you guys one or two questions. I'll come on with Mr. Ashu. Mr. Ashu, why is it that Wiriba seems to be the most vocal among all other Anglophone MPs?
Why Wiriba is the most vocal among all other Anglophone MPs, I would prefer to say why Wiriba is most vocal among 180 MPs in Cameroon. We know how most of those MPs get to the National Assembly. They were being appointed by hierarchy. They were being imposed on the people. People like Wiriba are those who have grassroots support. People like Wiriba are those who think they have theirs and they can fight for others. Whereas in that National Assembly, we have people who behave like the baobab tree. You know, the baobab tree, when you go to the forest, there's a baobab tree. Where it grows, no other tree grows around it. Okay? That's how most of our MPs behave. Wiriba believes he is elected by the people and he has to render service to these people. He has to represent the people's problem in the only house, because that is where the people's problem is supposed to be presented. If he does not present it, the way again he will present it. So Wiriba is just working within the diameter of his function.
It's working within the diameter of the function. But now, what do you take on? It seems as if Rene Emmanuel Sadi, after listening to Wiriba, I think he got maybe overwhelmed and said that was not how he has to speak, or that was not where he has to bring or table the problems he was mentioning. What do you think of the reaction of the Minister of Territorial Administration when he says that was not the appropriate place for an MP to come and table the grievances of his people?
I mean, it's just been normal because he has been working as Minister of Territorial Administration to keep the entire territory of Cameroon under subjugation and control by an elitist group of individuals within the government. So there is no place for the problems of Cameroonians to be sincerely, transparently debated. It doesn't exist in this country. So it's just been normal for him to say that was, because he knew that all the other MPs will be hearing it, the world will be seeing it, and that's not what they want. That's not what they want. They have been trained and they are used to pushing everything under the carpet. So this just went out of the norm. So all of them were shocked. So it's been normal, his reaction and that of the speaker. Like I said, I continue to say, some things don't shock me about these people. Because when you know who they are, where they are coming from, and what they don't represent Cameroonians' interest. They don't. So you should not expect at any point in time to see the interests of Cameroonians genuinely debated or addressed by these individuals, by these guys.
Good. Now, before we will continue, before I give you the floor, I would like us to collectively, and those watching us, to watch now the videotape of the one and only Joseph Wiriba in Parliament.
The emblematic figure in the Anglophone crisis, back at the lower house of Parliament.
I am back exactly for the same reason, Mr. Speaker, that you are talking up there. If you are to shut the mouths of the members of Parliament so that they do not talk about what has to do with their people, I am telling you, you will need something else other than just this.
The other, this June 21st, at the National Assembly, debate on the bill on Economic and Social Council, but what the SDF MP, Honorable Joseph Riba, wants to focus is the Anglophone problem, a pertinent, burning social issue also.
I have been chased through the bushes for the past 3 months. I cannot come here and you tell me that I should be discussing the Economic and Social Council, our children out of school, our lawyers in jail, and all that is happening in West Cameroon. It means nothing to you. Where in your standing orders, Mr. Speaker, where in your standing orders do you have space for us to discuss the issues that have to do with the people of West Cameroon? You tell me, then I'll go and sit down.
Honorable Weber said he's at the National Assembly. If arrested here, people of West Cameroon will know they don't belong.
Mr. Speaker, can you now, on this floor, give us where this National Assembly can discuss the issues that have to do with the people of West Cameroon? Because it is more important than anything you have discussed in this assembly from independence.
The MP is to represent his people.
I am happy that we are coming here when the Minister of Territorial Administration is here. And I am wondering, because Mr. Minister, I said here on the 2nd of December, that the reign of terror over in West Cameroon is bringing down the country. And nobody seems to listen. And then I come here and we are told that we cannot talk on behalf of those people.
And inside this pink file are the details.
Because I have a whole file here to discuss about the problems of my people. I have a whole file here. So can you give me space to talk about it? If I don't have it, then you are saying, and with the order on my head that I be arrested for representing my people, you are saying that the last remnants of anything we call democracy has died in this country.
But he needs to be given the floor.
I am waiting for you. We are talking about the lives of 5 million plus people. It is far more important. Can we talk about it, sir? Thank you very much.
House Speaker expressed his disappointment with such an attitude from the SDF MPs as the group leader, Honorable Banadzem, has insisted on same discussion.
Well, okay, he's not just made theatrics. I think he's really representing the people of West Cameroon and the constituency that he comes from, Jakiri. But before we will come back on the crux of this debate, let's listen, or together, let's watch and listen to the press review prepared to us again by the one and only Dominique Meme.
Rising death toll from Boko Haram attacks in the far north region of the country. The number of people killed recently remains frightening to Cameroonians, with many of them asking if it... The second coming of Honorable Joseph Wiba from Kombo constituency shakens the Cameroon National Assembly. The Post newspaper pictures Honorable Wiba telling the lawmakers that his return to Cameroon is to continue from where he stopped, fighting for the liberation of Anglophones in Cameroon. Honorable Joseph Wiba described as fearless triumph over the continuous interruption of the Speaker of the House to state that there will be no peace in the country when schools in the northwest and the southwest region of the country remain closed. As the Post wonder of what will become of Honorable Joseph Wiba following his return, the same paper explains how the mayor of Buea boasted on June 16 on how he was part of the team that frustrated the demonstration march of the Social Democratic Front MPs and mayors on the 5th of December last year in Buea. Patrick Ekema Esungi, during an ordinary council session, shamelessly proud of interrupting the SDF to march and denounce injustice meted on Anglophones. This insinuates that the mayor of Buea thinks he is above the law, but those who have been chained by the law are soldiers in the country. The Post newspaper takes us to the National Assembly, writing that the Minister Delegate in charge of defense has defended a bill that prescribes heavy jail term to soldiers that protest or show any sign of disrespect to hierarchy. But the unanswered question the paper observes is that no law punishes the regime if it does not pay the salary of soldiers. Info Martin clarifies public opinion that Martin Belingebuto, Director of Civil Cabinet at the Presidency, is still alive. The paper observes that rumors in Cameroon and elsewhere actually killed and put the body of the state authority in the mortuary. Bamenda illicit fuel vendor beat up people who claimed to be policemen. A newspaper writes on how the so-called policemen were lynched to near death below Fonchas Junction for trying to seize illicit fuel, popularly known as Fingi. From low-quality fuel sold in Bamenda, Repair newspaper gets into the Yaoundé General Hospital, pointing that contaminated blood is being sold in the black market. The paper raised an alarm that the population should be careful. But Khmer Press newspaper says government has opted to subvent 50,000 francs CFA blood bank in government hospitals for those in need of blood. Who supports the assassination of Bishop Jean-Marie Benoit Bala within the Catholic Church in Cameroon? Lanadot newspaper probes to verify that the Catholic Church has not been speaking the same language concerning the death of Bishop Jean-Marie Benoit Bala. To the Rambler newspaper, different views on the death of Bishop Mbala are not only in the country, but has equally divided public opinion at the international level. In sports, Le Sahel newspaper sizes up the chances of the indomitable Lions of Cameroon to defeat Germany tomorrow during their third match at the Confederation Cup in Russia. The paper explains how the Lions of Cameroon squandered several scoring chances or opportunities during the match against Australia.
Well, that was our press review prepared and presented by, as I said before it went on air, the one and only Dominique Meme. And before we had this interlude, we were talking about the coming back, or the second coming of Joseph Wilbur. And I also discovered that he has already been making some disciples. Is it Banazem? Is that his name? Honorable Banazem is also doing the same thing, trying to defend the Anglophone cause. But let me ask you this question. I think he said somewhere that it's not about the Anglophone MPs. I was trying to say that it's a national affair to all MPs. But I would still want to focus on the Anglophones because they are the ones feeling the pinch, right? The other MP I saw who is of the CPDM, paradoxically, if I may, he is called Martin Oyono from Kribi. Yeah. He was much more vocal than most other Anglophones. So the thing is that why is it that beside Wiriba, Banazem, now we see, or sometimes Awudu and the others, that's the SDF. Why is it that the Anglophone MPs of the CPDM in the Northwest and the Southwest, the CPDM Anglophone MPs, are they not Anglophones? Why is it that they are not also vocal on this affair?
Now, that's a good question you are asking. It is very sad. I say very sad, and again very sad. Because when you have a collective problem, some hoodlums disguise themselves and pretend as if there is no problem. Something is wrong with them. Because this is Honorable Martin Oyono, who is not of the Anglophone extraction, but can die for the problem.
Yeah, because he even said with that interview, he said the Francophones are viruses. That he said it. The Francophones are the virus. That's what he said. Great, that's Oyono said it. Now my question, as I was saying, why is it the CPDM? You have CPDM Anglophone, CPDM MPs. Yeah. It is their problem. Why don't they say anything?
You know, the issue is that the party has educated these Anglophone MPs negatively. What we find at the National Assembly, that's why I call it a kangaroo house, is for the fact that most of the MPs think of their party lines than on the interests of Cameroonians. If I am an SDF MP, I am an MP belonging to the CPDM. Once I'm canvassing during campaigns, I hold my party lineage at hand. Once you get into the National Assembly or to the House of Senate, you are for the people. We have been saying this. They are very stubborn. That's the more reason why when they get there, first things first, they are not for the show of themselves. Most of the times they are afraid because once you bring an aspect there that's contrary to your party lines, before you leave, quarters start coming in from the Central Committee. That do you know you're not supposed to say this? And since most of them don't even have anything to offer, I repeat, most of those MPs don't have things to offer to Cameroonians. That is the more reason why I'm saying that if next elections come up, President Paul Biya gives his calendar 2018. Whenever he announces the elections, Cameroonians should shine their eyes. Put people who can defend you. Not people who go and sit there and bring salt, rice, and all the like. I told you by experience in Tian, it was hell.
Okay.
But then, what happens? MPs will come from different angles, as you are saying. Why are they silent? If all of these MPs were supporting this cause because the government knows there's a problem. If they were speaking as one man, Kavayege Jibril would just get up one morning and say, no, but this thing is true, and channel it to the right quarters. But now that you are talking and I'm opposing, they think that surely I am a madman. And that's the reason why you see arrests around the corner. I've said earlier, even as you're talking Elie SMITH, don't be surprised that one day as we are finishing programs here, they are saying Apele. You want to hear that you are going to the judicial police for a question, and it is certain. So we must be sure of what we are doing. But once we know that we too, as a fourth estate, are doing our own part because we love this country. Yeah. Smith, I tell people, they should not think that they are more patriotic than some of us. We are all born of Cameroon extraction from father to great grandfather. And so if we talk and other MPs are talking, they should not be stigmatized. Because what Emmanuel René Sadi said, our Minister for Territorial Administration, was just because probably they were trying to cover many issues. If you don't say, give the problems of the Cameroonians in that kind of forum, or that kind of assembly, where do you say it?
Where do you say it? Now, Ashu, what's your own take on that? Isn't that appalling that an Anglophone MP, I think from Bangui North or whatever, is CPDM, in the Southwest is predominantly CPDM, but yet none of them say anything. But you have a bloke who comes from Kribi, who is up, banners up, defending the Anglophones. What is that kind of paradox?
At the introductory, I wanted to ask if Elvis was a Cameroonian. From his introductory.
Yeah.
How do these people become MPs? In the CPDM party, you are parachuted.
From the central
I have a friend, a very good friend of mine, who is in Sangele, a development-oriented person who has the base, but somebody from the top was imposed. All of those CPDM parliamentarians were imposed by the Central Committee. They were not elected by their base. Remember that issue brought serious problems before the elections. That is the difference between them and those in the opposition. Had it been these guys had their base from the grassroots, they wouldn't be behaving like this. They are appointed MPs. Let us not even talk about the senators who are appointed. The president of the Senate is appointed by the presidential decree. So, they don't represent the people. It is not surprising. I pity them. It is not surprising for the minister to say that is not where the MP was supposed to speak. I asked myself, was the MP supposed to talk in a bar, in a nightclub?
They will tell you right and send.
The ideal place to present the cause of the nation. Weber and others are presenting the plight of the nation. Because if the two Anglophone regions takes flame today, it is Cameroon that will be in flame. Okay? Because we are talking about, they are the ones talking about national unity. Nobody is rejecting it. We are in a country, whether it becomes federal or what, they are going to have a bottom name, Cameroon. So the National Assembly is the ideal place for an MP to present the plight of the people. If he is booted for that, then I don't know where else. He could have given an alternative. Or I wanted him to come and meet him in his office. An MP is superior to a minister. An MP is elected and a minister is appointed. So we should go above those things, their colonial thinking.
It's colonial,
you want
colonial
an
thinking.
MP to come and book audience to see him? No, I don't accept that.
You don't accept that. Marcel, this question that I want you to ask. Where does Joseph Wilbur, I wonder if you have met him before, get this courage to speak the way he's speaking? Now I also see Banazem is doing the same. Where does he get this courage to speak the way he's speaking? Do you think, because I have a friend who came here once, Michael Dimancho, who said Wilbur was a coward, that he ran away, but he has proven him wrong by coming back. Where do you think, on what do you think he's counting on?
No, the first thing is, the people of West Cameroon are people who have an Anglo-Saxon culture. And the Anglo-Saxon culture is one that educates the child from childhood as you're growing up to have self-esteem, to believe in yourself and to express yourself and to respect others, to be humble, to be gentle, to be courageous, and to serve good and to fear God. These are some basic virtues of an Anglo-Saxon culture that we have. Now, stepping further to that, the SDF is a party that was born in the 90s in terms of, power to the people. Now, in that spirit, it's true a lot of things have happened in the party over the years. But the point is there is still a remnant. There is still a remnant. That's why in his speech he talked about the remnant of democracy has died. Because when you come up from a platform, in a party who has a platform to representing the people, of giving the people the power back to the people, as an MP who is conscious, who has a conscience, and who has those basic values of an Anglo-Saxon person, you should stand up to the motto of that party. To see that those people who are in crisis now, they have the power to solve their problems. So you give them that power, give them the opportunity. That's exactly what he's doing in the parliament. To make the parliament to understand that the people I stand here for, this is the problem that is going on, and we have to resolve the problem. To look at what measures should be taken to address those problems. So it's normal. And secondly, look at, he says, I'm a son of Saul. There are some things which are particular to some particular tribe and some particular people. You get it? It's no surprise that most of the time we want to hear about resistance and certain things in Northwest, in Kumbo and environ those places. They don't take to any nonsense. There are people who are audacious. So I think Honorable Wiba is one, just going by his natural person, two, just respecting the principle of democracy, which as an elected MP, elected by the people, elected MP of the opposition party, and not any kind of a party which preaches social democracy, power to the people. He is working by that, and he refuses to cower, he refuses to compromise, he refuses to give himself to be absorbed by a colonial mentality, a colonial pattern of ruling. So I think that's just what he's doing.
That's just what he's doing. Now, let me come back to you. What is going to happen? Do you think the government is going to arrest him? And if the government arrests him, what is going to happen?
Well, I think if you look at the move that Honorable Wiwa is taking, first, maybe I just get in that it takes only those who have what it takes to do what he's doing. It takes only what it takes for those to do just like what he's doing. Now, if you look at it critically, you realize that from every indication, I'm sorry to say this because I don't want to quote names. You know, I work with most of the MPs. Yeah. I'm one of the journalists in Cameroon who works with almost all the MPs and the senators. I crisscross. Those who know me don't understand what I'm saying. But then, when you look at it critically...
What were you trying to say? So, here we like you to be open.
No, you're right. So what I'm trying to say here is that most of them have this worry of Anglophones that you just mentioned. But the fear is, how do they voice it? I say they speak with me one-on-one. This aspect of bottlenecks and going to ministers, many of them, when they go to take audience to see, book audience to see ministers, they spend hours. They're humiliated by the ministers.
And when Ashu said here, an MP is superior to a minister.
Ministers don't know that.
But how will ministers know that when you go cap in hand begging to meet?
So, at the end of it, you realize that, in a nutshell, most of them, as we're asking, first of all, why are most of the CPDM MPs quiet? I repeat again, without water in my mouth, I speak with them one-on-one. When you speak with them off mic, they tell you the worries of the Anglophones. They side with other Anglophones who are clamoring for this problem to be brought to order. But the question when I ask, but Honorable or Senator, why don't you see somebody just speak as if water is in his mouth? No, you know the head of state is doing after having complaint. Now, we are looking at a situation whereby, as Ashu said earlier, if you were elected by the grassroots people, you would do everything possible to defend them. Yeah. But in a case where other things transpire, so if you look at the case of Wilbur now, the question is, what happens to Wilbur? Now, we are living in a country that is full of uncertainty. That one is true. But I said earlier that Wilbur's coming is good for his people, but at the same time, not too safe for him. I don't want to get into that because there are things that I cannot tell exactly what can transpire around him, but it's not too safe for him because we have a repressive regime already that when you speak, you can either be arrested now or be arrested later. Now, if we ask, what will people do? That's a good question we are asking. If Wilbur is arrested today, what will the people do? The people are not inclined to holding arms. If you go to the street, they send these elements of the beer and police brutality as was done in Boya, and they brutalize you, finish. So at the end of it, The state itself knows that if it arrests Wilbur, there's nothing the people will do, because when you dare to come out, instead of sending these forces to far north, the force will be sent down to wherever you are carrying out a peaceful demonstration, and you'll be termed terrorism in quotes. Trouble has come. Therefore, what I'm saying is that the state has its mechanism to function. Now, but I fear for Wilbur, without mixing words. But I praise his courage. Some of us, if we had that kind of courage, surely would have been accompanying him. If other MPs had joined in 5, 10, 11, they will not arrest all the MPs. That's why I'm calling on the MPs. No MP is first of all promoting terrorism. But if we know, as I'm convinced talking here, I'm talking on what is there, factual, on the right, without jeopardizing state security, it means I am talking. They too should take the same angle and make sure that we get the state to order, to know that this part is part of Cameroon and has every right to speak the English you and I are speaking, not for somebody to say no English in this institution. And this part has the right to benefit from the national cake. I think if we do that, following the footsteps of Wilbur, I still fear his coming. But within 1 week, I'll carry out political analysis on the ground. And each time I come, I'll tell you what can befall him in this country.
Thank you very much. But may I remind you that it's not always with weapons, with arms that you win a revolution.
Yep.
In Egypt, in Burkina Faso, and the saying is you don't go to heaven if you don't die.
Yep.
So, okay. And now I would like to ask you this question. Is it that the MPs, CPDM, or opposition are a bunch of cowards and hypocrites? Because he just said you have people who say, okay, everything is all right, but behind they say, look, Anglophones are really suffering, especially those CPDM MPs of the Northwest and Southwest region. Are they simply cowards and hypocrites? Or are they also not helping the whole show? Because if you're not able to say the truth, as Wilbur is saying.
Coward, hypocrites are all concepts. What matters is what you put in the concept. They are egoistic people. They are people who are not worth being people's representatives. They are people who are protecting their interest. If you do a simple analysis of their status, you realize that close to 90+% are businessmen. They are contractors. That is why they are maltreated by the minister whenever they book for audiences. Because the minister always knows they are coming to negotiate public contracts. That is a problem. Understand? They have lost their potency, their legitimate, everything. So when they are coming, they are coming to plead for their companies. That is why you see in this our country, employers are suffering, because the labor code is not favorable to the employers. How can they discuss the labor code in parliament whether they themselves are the employers? Because they know if they put a good labor code with a good minimum salary wage, they are going to suffer.
Yeah.
You understand? So the problem with our MPs in Cameroon is multifaceted. That is why I'm inviting the youths to take everything to consider. The youth should stand up and put out this old generation out of parliament. Because if all of us will stand up and go in for these elections, we are going to take it.
If all of us stand up, we are going to take it. Well, the type of youth, I don't know, when we have a youthful population who likes drinking, looking for women, culture of immediacy.
Those are youthful characteristics. Everywhere in the world, you have.
Just as he said, Smith, that you should rise up. I too am rising up.
You're rising up.
I am getting into the elections. I'm not asking them.
You're not asking them.
All of us are getting into it.
You're getting into it.
Work with us.
Great. Now let me ask you this question. Now, he said something which is what I wanted to ask now. What has the electorate of West Cameroon and beyond West Cameroon, what will they have to do now, as he said, to do away with those generation of MPs who are old, corrupted businessmen, who are outdated and not representing the people, but representing only themselves?
Yeah, the first thing I want to say, when we talk about electorate, when we are talking about elections here, I kept on asking myself a lot of questions. You asked about the electorate of West Cameroon. The truth is, our country is going through a process of fundamental transformation of its foundation. Talking about parties, of course, we heard in the course of, I think that was December, January, how they were banning CPDM, the people were banning CPDM in the Northwest. And I'm not so sure about the SDF as well in the Northwest and Southwest. Why? Because the people of West Cameroon are angry. And until their issues are legitimately addressed. We cannot be talking about an electorate because we are talking an electorate of which elections organized by who? This same regime, this same government. Come on, let's be logical. So do we think that these people who are resisting, who are going through everything they are going through against this government, who want to take it easy with an election organized by the same government? So the electorate, let's wait and see the kind of electorate that will be produced for the next elections, because if this issue has not been addressed, it will be difficult for us to say life will come back to normal to this part of the country, and then we start talking about electoral, we start talking about political party and all whatnot. That is why the SDF party, being wise as they could be, they organized the march that they organized last December in Bamenda and Boya. Could not say SDF is calling a rally, or they said they are going down with the people to identify with the people to carry out a march to show it was not an SDF march. That's what they said. Because this issue is not an issue of political party. It's an issue of the interest of the people. So even if we want to talk about...
said that he scuttled the SDF movement in Boya.
Well, that's Ekema, but who is Ekema? Ekema is somebody who is even, first of all, rejected in that same Boya. He talked about people who were manipulated and imposed on the people as representative. He's one of them. If Ekema does not go out by election in Boya, Epevier will take him out of Boya before we know it. So he is just the last dying, the last cry of a dying snake. So let him say whatever I want to say. Let him do whatever I want to do. The people are the ones who have the say. So if we want to talk about any elections in the country, want to talk about any electorate in this country, then let us go down and see that this problem is legitimately and sincerely addressed. If the people are not satisfied, they will not give a go in anything. Sometimes ago, we thought things were calm, but recently, we see, and when we talk about the coming back of Wiba, let me tell you, there is one message that he's communicating to the people of West Cameroon, that this problem is not yet over. Else, I wouldn't have come back to talk again in Parliament. So those people who were trying to think that because of political GC that is going on and other things that the government is trying to do, the problem is solved, is telling them that, watch out, we are not yet done with this. We have to finish this thing.
We have to finish this thing.
Yep.
And so those who think that Wilbur is afraid of being arrested, he is not afraid. He said he's back here to bear the brunt. I think we are going to be leaving this topic, except you have one or two things to say.
No, the other thing I'll be coming in is the fact that despite whatever is happening in the country, while crying for something, you should keep going. That's the philosophy I have. Meaning that I don't need to know whether a youth belongs to CPDM, SDF, or anything, just as he has said. Youths, as of time being while going, should register massively. When it comes to election, as Ashu has said, if we see vibrant youths taking positions, I just watched TV this morning, and I saw a 21-year MP in Russia talking. You can't find that in Cameroon. It will be a daydream affair.
But you have a young Cameroonian like Cabral Libi and Marcel de Bissol, who are gunning for the top job of the land.
They need to go. That's why I'm saying that if youth sit as one man, you keep political parties, when you see a youth ahead, and you know his philosophy, you understand him, we move. So youth should do everything possible to get in, register, get into these elections, take part in it, no matter how hard it will be. Before you know it, we'll shift half of these redundant people in the government aside, and things will move.
And you on the topic?
Any problem with a beginning must have an end. So the struggle we are having to come to an end one day, and elections will come. Let us not be surprised, like that beautiful young girl, who's that in the story in the Bible, who waited for the groom. Some went to sleep and some stayed awake. Let us be like those who are staying awake. Let the youths of Cameroon go and register massively whenever elections come. Let us take the battle.
Let us take the battle. So the magic one will be registering massively and then coming out as one man.
That is it.
To vote yes.
And while the registration is going on, we should do everything to make sure that the machinery be properly addressed, because if the electoral system is not well addressed, youths will register massively, they will come out, and party lines, party disciplines will still come back to bring us some certain people.
Okay.
So
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we will be rounding off our program with something lighter. We are talking about the indomitable Lions of Cameroon, or the domitable Lions of Cameroon, a team that has not gotten any play style, less inspirational, lackluster. They are coming out, or their participation at the Confederation Cup has not really surprised anybody. The performances was, according to, in my opinion, not very good. But do they have any chance tomorrow, as they'll be playing their final match at the Confederation Cup against the Germans? Those who are patriotic and fanatical still think that Cameroon can overturn the heat and also surprise Cameroonians and the world, as they did by lifting their 5th trophy at the Africa Cup of Nations. So I'll begin. Where do I start? I'll start with you, right? Now tell us, what do you make of that team of Cameroon on Sunday? Do you think there's any chance of going to the second round? And if they don't, it is going to be the first time that they have not been able to go to the second round of the Confederation Cup. Do they stand any chance?
Well, if you ask me standing a chance, I would tell you no. And no categorically. Not that I'm not patriotic, not that I don't love the team, but I say no because we look at the issues technically as they are on the ground. You know what beats my imagination of Cameroonians is that they sometimes get patriotic to a point whereby they believe that even a lizard can kill a goat. You understand? That's where we have a problem. So what they should note here is that the chance we had with Austria, or is it Australia? Australia.
Yes.
As we missed that chance, beating Germany will be a whole task on earth that you and I know. So they should play, they should not give up. But I see us coming back home. I'm sorry to say that. I see us coming back home, which is an indication that things are not moving because the gods somewhere are angry. These guys played ball. I'm not hiding it. Even those who are football experts, they'll tell you that the match was well played. All the first and the second matches were well played. Scoring opportunities missing and all the like. But at the end of it, the gods of the land are angry. Therefore, as we come back home on Sunday, I'm sorry to say that, we sit at home as brothers, arrange our problem, then next time we will go through Confederation Cup. Thank you.
Thank you. And you, what's your own take? Did you watch the matches and were you impressed by the indomitable Lions against Chile?
I watched the first match against Chile. The second match I didn't bother because I was ashamed. I want to tell you that in the 2002, when Cameroon was at the winning spiral. In 2000 in particular, I was right in the advanced level. The World Cup was in Korea and Japan, where in Cameroon time, we watch the match in the morning. I will watch the football match in the morning and go for my chemistry paper in the afternoon. In 2000, Cameroon won the Nations Cup. Some of us moved naked on the street. But from 2010, I have boycotted Cameroon football. Because I happen to be one of the few countries on earth where mediocrity has been given red carpet reception. We think doing try by error is the best way. The worst of it is when we won the Nation Cup, we thought we were really at the summit. Nobody saw an empty team. What are we counting on? If patriotism means supporting what is wrong, then I would not like to be a patriot. I don't associate myself with a losing mark. Yes, we are Cameroonians, we are patriots, but at this point in time, we don't have what it takes to get to where we think we can get. The level of football now is more than us. From local level, Cotton Sport has been beaten away to and fro on home ground. Our mighty Cotton Sport. That tells you, even the national team, who is there? You play a match, you don't score. In a football team like us, the best scorer is a central defender. He sends signals. At times I blame pressmen. I blame even our football technicians in this country, because when they come on TV channels, they play football politics because they're looking for nomination in the junior teams because they themselves they can never be appointed in the senior teams. They come and play political propaganda and say the truth. It is not moving. We do not have a team.
We do not have a team. Are you that pessimistic that, anyway, as far as I'm concerned, if I could give my opinion, I don't believe in that team. But then, do you think they stand any chance of beating the Germans?
I'm sure, I thought by now some of the supporters would have been packing their bags to come back home while they squat for Feast of Righteousness on Sunday and then come back. Like my brother said, let them come home. Let us arrange whatever problem is going on. But on a serious note, I think there is a need for us to really work on our finishers. We need finishers in the national team because that's what killed us. You know, the game was there, but there were no finishers. So we really need to work on the finishers. But then they have tried what they could try. We know the politics that goes on with our sports. So let them come back home. Let us sincerely sit down and address the issues we have on the land. We cannot go out and be claiming everything is well when your one leg is broken. So let them come back, and tomorrow we'll have another opportunity. We always come back.
Okay. Now let me ask this question because someone told me somewhere that the problem with the Cameroon national team is that we don't have very good trainers. That the last time we had a very good trainer was when they recruited Denis Lavigne, who was the former coach of Coton Sport Garoua, who knew how to blend the chemistry of local players and those abroad. Because we have those who are abroad who are playing in Division 5. They don't even play sometimes. When they come here, they are celebrated as heroes. Now, do you share that thought that it is simply because we have poor managers, hence we cannot produce a very good national team?
Well, that view holds very well because if you look at the cacophony that surrounds the selection of managers and coaches, I think luck had been on our side for some time, but we should not take it for granted because as a press man, you understand the mafia that usually takes place. People sign in mission orders to go to Europe to look for coaches. When the coach they know already is there. And most of our recent coaches, some have been coached under 4th division, some coached under 5th division with no full credentials as per se. And just on the fact that they know that is always based on agenda, because a professional coach will not come on some kind of conditions you are giving him. But when you take a coach, sometimes that is behind the door, you have to tell him, okay, you give me this, I give you this, all right. So, but then the coach we have had tried his best, but the best is not good enough because at the end of it, we need the results. But what we're saying here is that, to me, I say that all the foreign coaches should go back. Let's begin because we have what it takes. All the Joseph Bell Antoine, the former Indomitable Lions, let's bring them into the limelight. Nigeria is doing that. Nigeria is using their home-based coaches. So let us learn. For now, I'm not the Minister of Sport and Physical Education, listen to me. The officials of FECAFU, Tombe Aroko, Sedeki, and the rest. They should learn now, as I speak, to take another experiment. Let them try to recruit national team coaches. This is what Enyon Gachi did. Who knew that he could do that? Enyon Gachi has done that. So let us learn now. If we put home coaches, I think we'll go a long way now.
Rapidly, if you were to say something on that, because we are come to the end of...
You are talking about, you are punching on coaches not being qualified. Who heads the Football Federation in Cameroon? Is it legitimate? We know everything. So when the head himself, if there's a problem in the house, all the children are going to have a problem. The image we portray out is the image of our homes. So I love football, I love Cameroon, I love the Lions, but at this particular point in time, I cannot keep on supporting what other people are destroying.
Thank you very much, Ashu Akepe. Thank you, Elvis Tayong.
Elvis Tayong.
Tayong.
And we have some few friends who are listening to us, right?
Thank you very much. Yep. And I also want to thank you very much, Marcel Amabo. It's a pleasure having you both here, today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And thank you, fellow Cameroonians. Have a wonderful weekend.
Elie SMITH, as we're wrapping up, yes, you know that our mayors are listening to us. We have the mayor of Bonge, we greet him, Chief Daniel Mata Makambe. We have also Chief Eto Esson. You know, it's our good friend. We'll be going back there for Jan Chiefs Conference on Saturday and Sunday. But he is listening to us on Friday and Sunday. And then we also have, Reverend Apostle Dr. Mesumbe James Nyando, the former mayor of Ekolo Titi. Yes. They are all watching us now as we speak. And lastly, our Dio of Bonge, who is a God-fearing man, Simon Esombe, is also with us, 5-on-5. We cannot do English.
Thank you very much.
Let me also say hello to all the citizens of the great city of Kumba.
Thank you. Okay.
The best city on earth.
The best, and the rest. The best city on earth, Kumba. Right. Yeah, we have a very teeming viewership down there. Okay. It is on this very joyful and positive note that we'll be rounding off this edition of Newsroom here at Canal de English. From me, on behalf of the entire team of Canal de English, have a nice weekend, and whatever the case, we wish the indomitable Lions our best wishes against the Germans tomorrow.